Shankar sir, you can start. Now it's time. Shankar sir, you can start, sir. Shankar sir? Shankar sir, do you hear me? I don't hear you, sir. Shankar sir? Shankar sir?
Shankar. Shankar.
Dear participants, we'll start in a minute. Shankar sir, do you hear me? Do you hear me? We don't hear you. Can you unplug your mic and plug in again? Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the English Language Teachers Association of India, I welcome all of you to this webinar on To Be Fluent. ELTAI has been conducting webinar continuously for the past 3 months for the teachers. And we have now recently come up with an idea of conducting webinars for students also, with an aim to make them learn English proficiently and use it in their in their life, so that they can become employable. Do you all hear us?
I can hear you.
Shankar sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now, okay, there was some other technical problem. I'm rectified it. You can talk now, sir. You can turn on your camera and talk now.
Okay, okay. So not with me. Okay, okay. It's fine. Fine.
Shankar sir, turn on your camera and start speaking. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I, on behalf of English Language Teachers Association of India, welcome everyone to Students Life Skills Webinar Series 1 on the theme, To Be Fluent in English, which is scheduled today, the 30th August 2020. ELTAI, which takes pride in promoting new ventures through various continuous professional development programs to the teachers and ultimately reflecting their learning into classroom teaching and shaping the young minds into great personalities and good citizens as well. The objectives of this great initiative are as follows: to enhance the skills of the learners to be fluent in their communication in English, to equip them with the life skills to be future ready, and to interact with the other learners across the country, sharing best practices of learning English language and literature. Now, I request everyone to watch a short video presentation on English Language Teachers Association of India. According to David Gurdon, in his book, English Next India in 2010, throughout India, there is an extraordinary belief among all the castes and classes in both rural and urban areas in the transformative power of English. English is seen not just as a useful skill, but as a symbol of a better life, a pathway out of poverty and oppression. The unique selling point being used by modern India for the growth of its new IT-enabled economy has been knowledge of English. Modern India boasts a talented pool of young, proficient users of English language who can Indian society and who can provide the necessary impetus to its growth, even in these recession-ridden times. The theme for today's webinar is to be fluent in English, for which we have two speakers. One is a teacher, the other is a taught. I'm so happy to introduce Dr. C.A. Lal. Dr. C.A. Lal is a professor of English in the School of Distance Education, University of Kerala, with 27 years of teaching experience. He coordinates MA English program to his department. He is also an English language trainer and a teacher educator. He's a master trainer in the Access program of the Relo US Embassy, and also curriculum developer and a teacher trainer in the Kerala State Literacy Mission Authority. Further, he is also the secretary of ELTAI Trivandrum chapter. I welcome you, sir. The other speaker for today's webinar, Ms. S. Gurunanma. Ms. S. Gurunanma is doing her final year BCom at the St. Xavier's College, Trivandrum. She is a member of English Access Micro Scholarship Program by Relo US Embassy, which provides a foundation of English language skills to talented 13 to 17 years old students from economically disadvantaged sectors through after-school classes and intensive sessions. Further, it provides participants English skills that may lead to better jobs and educational prospects. Further, she is also doing her course on environmental management ethics under Coursera. Her hobbies are gardening, watching movies. I welcome Ms. Gurunanma to the session. An announcement to the participants. Participants can raise their queries in the chat box. Now I welcome Dr. C.A. Lal to take over the session.
Thank you, Dr. Shankar. We will go to my presentation straight away. Hi to all, and my special thanks to ELTAI and its officers for inviting me to lead the first session of this seminar series on for students. So let me begin my presentation and we will continue. All right. So I've made the topic more specific, though the idea was to talk about fluency in general. I have zeroed in on myths on the path towards fluency. So I have felt that as a teacher and teacher educator, that there are several notions that we generally have, which teachers have told us, which we read, and we have come to our own conclusions, which have hampered our, the path towards fluency. So we need to think first about what is fluency. Fluency, I would talk about fluency as a general comfort in using language. So here it is English, and the kind of comfort you have in using English language for communication in actual contexts. So that would be what I would call fluency. And we often kind of draw a distinction between fluency and accuracy. But an element of accuracy is also assumed in fluency, so that we expect you to be a little bit accurate also. But these are things which we repeatedly have heard, and also we are a little intimidated, we're a little frightened by many of the things that we have heard about fluency. So fluency in English seems to be a little difficult to attain. And we have many centers offering shortcuts to attaining fluency in English. But I have no shortcuts for you. But over the next 25 to 30 minutes, I hope to discuss a few aspects which might help you in your path towards fluency. But I'm sure many of the attendees here are fluent in different levels. So fluency is not something that we do not have. So I think we should start with the a kind of classification. Let me try not to use difficult words. You know, we English teachers have this tendency to use difficult words, which is not a very good thing all the time. So when we talk about fluency, we need to remember that there are different users. English is used by so many people in this country and in other countries as well, where English is not the mother tongue. And people have different needs, and there are different users with different needs. So I thought I'll classify users into two categories. One is specialist users, and these are my own terminology. Forgive me if they seem to be a little arbitrary. As specialist users would be teachers of English. So teachers, we expect a level of fluency from teachers of English. We expect a kind of level of fluency from English language professionals. I would mean people who develop content for English language, you know, curriculum developers, people who write textbooks, people who create audio and video material, all those people. Maybe online, people who design online courses in English, and people who design and conduct tests in English. So all those people would be classified as EL, or English language professionals. Then there are creative writers who write novels, who write stuff in English language. We have so many people around, both online and people who write novels, drama, poetry. And then you have English language scholars, people who study English, who do their PhD in English, or even BA, MA courses in English, with an intention of becoming, specialists in English. The word specialist, don't misunderstand me. I don't mean it in the sense like a cardiologist is a specialist. I would use the word to mean people who go deeper into the language with some intention in mind. And there are, of course, journalists who would want to have an advanced level of proficiency. The point is the specialist users, who would form a small percentage when we think of the wide spectrum of users of English. They would need a reasonably high level of proficiency in English, fluency in English. But the majority of the people we talk about, most of the students we have, do not have plans to become all these things. But there certainly are a few students who would become teachers of English, who would become English language professionals, become creative writers, who would want to do their PhD or their higher qualifications in English. And there would be many who would want to be journalists, and there could be other specialists also. But the wide number of people would be, I would like to categorize them as all the others. So all the others who are not specialists are the people to whom I am now basically talking. But the things I say might be useful to English literature and language students as well. But my focus is largely on the people, the large community who want to learn English, who want to use English for all practical purposes of life, are not very specialist users. And the thing is, I would also look at I'll be primarily looking at a few statements that we often hear, which have a kind of, which well from a kind of what I meant by myths. You have many misconceptions or half-baked conceptions in our mind about learning language, about English, which I'd be looking at one by one. So here there is one which we repeatedly, so all my students, even teachers, who when the discussion of fluency in English come up, they always talk about this. They make this statement: I don't have enough vocabulary. I need to improve my vocabulary. I have a problem with finding the right words. So, we need to look at this in a little detail, but first let me, there are a few words I've displayed on the screen. Yeah, you can see them. They are all a bit, words that we could call difficult. And why I've put these words up is I've seen many people very meticulously taking effort to learn a lot of very difficult and obscure words in English. And yeah, we have Dr. Tharoor, coming up with very difficult words once in a while. And we think that we need all these words in our daily life and to communicate in English, to have a good proficiency in English. My point is, most often we have enough vocabulary. That is something we often do not realize. We don't actually need a very difficult set of words to communicate in our everyday context. That's one point I want to drive home. It's nice to have words like this, and you would have, if you listen to Dr. Tharoor carefully, we would often people think that he is a person who come up with all kinds of difficult words, which he kind of learned from some dictionary. He repeatedly asserts that he came upon the difficult words he sometimes, introduced to the public through his reading. So he doesn't kind of take a lot of effort to study a difficult word and then show it off. He just comes up with what, because he's a wide reader. He has read an immense lot of material in his whole life, and he happens to use these words. That's just it. So there are 2 points in this. One, well, I'll go to the next slide and then talk about it. Yeah, about the difficult words was one point I would like you to remember. We often think that we need to have a lot of very hard words, and about these hard words, which we think will make our English more impressive. Sometimes will make our English impressive, but very often, remember, in our mother tongue also, there is so many words which we might know them, but we wouldn't use. Now, for example, in Malayalam, we have very hard words like akshandavyam or jugupsavaham, etc., which we know, which we hear spoken in different contexts, but we might not use in our everyday life, except if you are working, if you are a creative writer, or maybe you want to have fun with words. Normal speech, whether it is Malayalam, Hindi, Marathi, whatever language you have, you are likely to use simpler words in your everyday speech. You're not likely to choose a rather high-sounding word unless you are particularly fond of it and you want to show off, or you want to create a little bit of humor by using a obscure word. Otherwise, you would choose simpler words in for your language, even when we speak in our mother tongue. So the points I've written here is there are similar words. You have seen many obscure words here in this slide. Rhodomontade, defenstrate, snollygoster, Welsh-and-Shong, rigmarole, fudgel, etc., hypochondriacal, doppelganger, valetudinarian. All these words, similar words, high-sounding, difficult-sounding words will be there in our mother tongue as well, which once we have heard, and there may be a lot more which we haven't heard. You may, if you think a bit, you will realize how there is such a wide number of vocabulary, a huge fund of vocabulary in your mother tongue which you are not familiar with. Even in your mother tongue, you make a choice of words and you use them in your everyday conversation. You do not take that much effort in expanding your vocabulary by adding a lot of difficult words into it. That is not the thing. You really don't have to worry about that. You can communicate with a limited fund of words. And these difficult words are rarely used. Sometimes they are too showy to show you to. So too showy, showy in the sense you will sound a bit odd if you say that. Instead of saying something in a very simple manner, if you kind of use a very hard word, people will laugh at you, think that you are trying to show off your knowledge. So therefore, we don't use that. But these words will be very useful for some people who are indulging in creative writing, who are writing a project, a very serious, high-sounding academic work. These words will become very, very handy. These so-called difficult words are very, very handy when you want to express some obscure ideas in a studied treatise. But we are ordinary people who are not always involved in academic writing at that level. We are learners of English who want to use English in everyday context, say in our classroom, talking to our teachers. And once we go out and start working, maybe to our seniors, maybe to interact with people from other parts of India, maybe to interact with people from other parts of the world, that we need English. But that English is not very difficult to attain. It is not difficult to attain fluency in that kind of English. So the point I'm trying to make is related to vocabulary. First point, vocabulary. It's not essential to have a fund of, so don't waste your time with dictionaries or books like that, where you pick up a difficult word and then learn it by heart, look at the spelling, etc. I would say it would be a waste of time, but certainly there's nothing wrong in doing that. If it is taken as a hobby, it's very fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong in learning new words. It is good to know them. But remember, for those who do not have that kind of an interest, it is okay not to know them. It is okay to have a fund of very straight, simple words which we use in our everyday conversation. That is the point about vocabulary, but I haven't concluded about vocabulary yet. Look at these two statements. First two, it's important to learn a lot of difficult words to be impressive. Do you think that sentence is right? Very often we are given that message from many quarters. Teachers sometimes say that, books tell us that. Generally, we have the impression it's very important to learn a lot of difficult words to be impressive. Even literature students sometimes have a belief that you need to come up with very difficult words once in a while so that you can impress the teacher. The teacher will be impressed, not if you use a difficult word, but if you use the appropriate word. Very often in theory, etc., there will be difficult words, apparently difficult words. A word in English literary theory, for example, interpellation or hegemony, etc., are very convenient words. But those words will remain in a particular domain and will be used only in that domain. You don't have to worry about such words in your everyday speech. So here I am concerned only with real life English. So it's not important, but I would say it is useful to learn a lot of difficult. Certainly it is useful. If you have the time, if you have the inclination, learn as many words as possible, but it is not an imperative thing. It's not a must thing. And two other myths that we generally have is that we can learn a lot of new words from dictionaries. I remember many occasions when my teachers have told us to I remember one teacher giving a task to a bunch of adult learners. I was also involved. I was very amused by the task that the teacher gave. The task was this: tomorrow when I come, go to take up your dictionary and look at the first 2,000 words beginning with P and make them all in sentences. Imagine the impossibility of that task. Well, I still wonder why the teacher gave the task, but I did not take it up with her at that time. And I don't know what happened after that, whether the students did or not. But I would say it's this kind of thing we should not do. It is a very artificial and totally useless activity to learn words from the dictionary. Forgive me if you have a habit of doing that, it is okay. If you can find time, it is fine. But I would say a dictionary is not there for feeding you a lot of vocabulary items. And there are also books which give you a lot of information how to boost your vocabulary, etc. I would say don't waste your time reading those books. Then what do we read? How do we do it? That is the question. So the two myths, two sentences which I would consider myths from my experience with my students, and also my experience as a student of English who have learned. I was born in a village. I studied in a village school, and the English that I have, it was constructed, it was built up, it was acquired over time. So I am also, as many of the grown-up people in India are, we learned English on our own. And I am basing my inferences on my experiences. Just like vocabulary, I haven't come to my solutions, which I'll do shortly, if at all there can be solutions. there is another misconception that we have. This is related to another item. I finished my argument about vocabulary, though I haven't talked about how to. There's another belief that we generally have, which which even teachers constantly have, is that grammar books will help us learn English. Grammar books will help us become fluent. I would say that it is grammar books that prevent us from becoming fluent. Why is that so? Well, I'd like to draw your attention to two categories here again: the specialist grammar and the user's grammar. You remember the two categories I talked about. Those people who want to have a deeper knowledge of English, and the bigger community, maybe 80% of English users or even more, who want to use English in their everyday life, in their education, in their job, in their everyday transaction in a foreign environment. They need to have a particular kind of grammar, and the specialists need to have another kind of grammar. So the kind of grammar we learn in the books are all meant for specialists. Terms like preposition, phrase, and whether the need to know whether a word is a gerund or what is the label, what part of speech it is. All this information is meant for the specialist. Thankfully, we general users of English, I am also a general user. I have I serve two functions. When I'm a teacher, I'm a specialist. When I'm a trainer, I'm a specialist. But I am also a general user of language when I go out to the world and talk to people in English, where in context where English is required. So there, I don't need to have a conscious knowledge about grammar. So here we are talking about conscious knowledge of grammar and an unconscious knowledge of grammar. Grammar is certainly essential. There are people who believe that when when in context like this, when teachers say that grammar need not be taught using laws, using rules, we are trying to say that grammar is not needed. That's a big misconception. What we are saying is theoretical grammar is not needed for the ordinary person who wants to use English for his life. Just as we are not conscious about the grammar of our mother tongue, we are not conscious about the grammar of our mother tongue. That doesn't mean our mother tongue doesn't have a grammar. It probably has an even complicated grammar than English, but we are not conscious about it. We go ahead and use. See, I've written two things. The specialist, with his grammatical knowledge, he knows the rules of the language, but he can also explain it. He can say, if he hears a wrong sentence, he'll be able to tell you precisely why it is wrong. But a general user of language also knows the rule. He also knows the rules. The rules are there in his mind, but he's not conscious about it. He will also know that sentence is wrong, but he may not be able to explain it. That is the difference. So there are these two kinds of grammar is there. The grammar with all the terminology is meant for the specialist, while the user who is not planning to be a specialist in English doesn't need that kind of theoretical conscious knowledge. What happens is this conscious rule-based grammar often prevents you from being fluent. Let me go to the next slide. So I would say that combining both vocabulary and language and grammar, I would say that learning a language, whether it is English or another foreign language or another language. For example, people in Kerala trying to learn Marathi would be very similar to people in Kerala trying to learn English, because both are, not familiar to them. They have come from outside. Or rather, well, I apologize for that expression. They haven't come from outside. I haven't come from outside. But those are languages that are not familiar in the part of the country where we live. Though I can't say that very much about English, because English is there a lot in Kerala, at least. In India also, I believe. But in Kerala particularly, English is everywhere. But still, people in Kerala complain that I don't have enough vocabulary. I don't know grammar of English. Well, I would say learning language is learning to ride a bicycle. Who has, you have either learned to ride a bicycle or you've seen somebody riding a bicycle, learning to ride a bicycle. Did anybody ever give you a class before you started riding? What are the parts of the bicycle? Tell you that this is a brake cable and this is a pedal and this is the, handlebar. Nobody ever does that. You have this cycle there. It frightens you a bit in the beginning. and then you sit on it. Somebody helps you, mounts you on the bicycle. You try to pedal on your own. You fall down and you bruise yourself. But then you again start doing it. In a day, in 2 days, you start cycling on your own. But then over days, you become more and more skillful. And maybe after 2 or 3 or 4 months of constant cycling, you become an expert in cycling. So still you do not know the names of any of its parts. Then why? And let me not say that. Learning language is also not absolutely similar. The processes are much more complex, but it is also somewhat like this. To use language, you need not know all the details about the parts. It's a kind of habit that you acquire, but it is much more complex than acquiring other habits, because language learning is a very complex process, the nuances of which are not fully known yet. But still, for us ordinary people, we don't have to worry about that. So the analogy, I have compared learning in language to riding a bicycle, because we just ride. You have that balance, and then you ride. You don't have to worry about the parts. The same way, the grammatical aspects, the vocabulary has to be acquired naturally, just as we cycle and learn to ride. These have to come naturally. How does that happen? Yeah, that is going to be explained now quickly. I do not know how much more time we have. The best books for learning English. Very often people ask, what is the best?
5 minutes at the maximum. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. People very often ask, what is the best book for learning English? And people would recommend grammar books. But I would say the best book for learning English are the books you read in peace. You should be able to enjoy it. Read without thinking of learning and enjoy it. So that's very important. You learn language, English, here in this context by reading in peace, reading without being conscious of the learning process, and read while enjoying that action. And what books help you do that? Yeah. The books you love reading are the best books, not dictionaries, not grammar books, but the books you love. So, suppose I'm not saying I am specifically that novels are good. I personally used to read a lot of stories and novels, picture books, etc., and I learned English quite a lot through that. But I would not say that to you, because you might have a different taste. You would want to read simple books on history sometimes, simple books on animals, plants, whatever book you enjoy reading in English, you read. And how do you know what is the right book for you? Start reading. Go to a library, take books. If you haven't read much, start with children's book perhaps, and learn enjoying it. If you don't find a book interesting, keep it back and take another book and start reading. You need to fall in love with books. Start reading. You can also read in the Kindle or in the computer, but you need to start reading if you want to be fluent in English. And you need to practice English also. You need to speak. You cannot cycle until you sit on the bike and start pedaling. The same way, you complain that I don't have, I can't speak well, I need to go for a spoken English course. The problem is that you don't speak. You don't get an opportunity to speak. In our context, there aren't many opportunities for speaking. So if you can get hold of a few friends who would like to talk in English, sit together and have sessions where you use only English. You might make mistakes. You don't have to worry about that. Don't set about correcting each other. Just use the language. Read on one side and speak on another side. Listen on one side and speak and write on another side. That's the way to learn English, not from English, books that, claim to teach you English, but through the books you love. If you have a problem, if you don't get a partner to have speaking practice, I would say you can create short speeches every day evening, or maybe twice a week. You record a little bit in your phone, not quite naturally, because only you are going to listen to it. You record 9 minutes of what happened on that day. It's a journal of that particular day. So I went there, I did this, I saw that person, we discussed this. You create an audio for about 5 minutes to 10 minutes and keep it in a folder. And over time, you can see how you improve. And this is one convenient thing if you don't get another person to practice speaking. Listening practice is excellent. Is very essential. Unless you listen well, you won't be able to speak well. Aspects of pronunciation, everything needs to be picked up. They're not learned from books. And listening practice is very essential. And I would say YouTube is a very good source. I'm saying there are so many other sources, but I'm focusing only on YouTube because everybody has some smartphone these days. And if you do not have a smartphone, don't feel bad. Try to save up money and get hold of a smartphone, because it's a very versatile tool. It helps you record, it helps you listen, it helps you read, it gives you a lot of information. It's a multi-faceted tool. So try to get a not very inexpensive smartphone if you do not already have one, because it helps you in creating audio journals. It also helps you in listening. So I would say you decide that today onward, I'm going to listen to English 10 minutes every day. Whatever in YouTube that is in English, that interests you, you can listen. And about reading and writing, you need to decide what to read. You will discover. Once you start, if you keep your mind, you will discover and you'll start reading. And you also need to write. And what you need to write, again, you can decide. You can keep a journal every day. You can write stories if you like. If you want, you can write poetry. You need not show it to somebody and get it corrected. That's the important thing that I want to tell you. You don't have to have everything you write corrected. So many of my students send me poems and ask me to correct them. You don't have to do that. You write and write and write. And to conclude, I would say that there are many roads to fluency. I was touching upon a few aspects. So, what you read, what you listen to, how you learn, and when you learn, all is your choice. But just remember that fluency is, remember, fluency comes only through practice. Unless you practice reading, unless you practice listening, unless you practice speaking and writing, you will not learn English. Yeah. The more language you use, the more skills you master. So here's an image with so many books that I love reading. None of them are very high standard, but just pick up any book that you would love to read, and that will make you a lot more fluent in English than you presently are. So thank you again for listening to me, and thank you to ELTAI for offering me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I do invite Ms. Guru Nanma to join the session.
Guru Nanma, could you please turn on your camera and mic?
Hello.
Yes, Guru Nanma, we hear you. You can start speaking.
Yes, sir. First of all, I say namaste to you. A warm good evening to one and all. I am Guru Nanma, finally a BCom student of St. Xavier's College, Tumpa. I am delighted, excited, and at the same time little bit tense. Now I am here with you to share my experience and what are the strategies I adopt to improve my communication skills. English is a polite language. Everyone's desire is to speak English fluently and fastly as soon as possible. Am I right? I got a good platform from my college, that is Access. The full form of Access is English Access Micro Scholarship Program. Through this program, I realized that we can learn English through everything. We can learn English through play, we can learn English through conversations, we can learn English through drama, we can learn English through reading and anything. We can learn English through anything. I think this is the specialty of English language. The very important thing is that you love English, you passionate to English. Don't consider English as a hefty language. If we consider English as a hefty language, we can't do anything for good in English or fluent in English. So always consider English as an user-friendly language. Sometimes we may pass through some deplorable stages. Don't bother about that. The persons, those who speak in English fluently now, they all are passed through some difficult situations. But they overcome all these barriers only through practice. The strategies I followed are, the first one is practice, practice, practice. If you can practice daily, it is a fantastic thing. If you want to be fluent in English, the only way is practice. And sometimes we can't frame big sentence in our beginning time. Don't worry, the small sentence is enough. And speak English, I earlier say that practice. Okay, some people are very afraid of speaking. I don't know English, how can I speak? So speak English, it's very important. Only you speak English, only then we can fluent in English. So speak English, speak yourself. It's very important. I have no siblings. I am the only daughter of my parents. So my favorite thing is I always speak to myself. I always speak to my surroundings. At that time, there is no one to judge us. We get confidence. So I suggest you to please try to speak yourself. It helps you to attain confidence, and it also improve your fluency also. The next thing is that practice with tongue twisters. In my case, I am Malayali, so my tongue is always flexible with Malayalam. At that time, if we practice tongue twisters fastly, my tongue is also flexible with English. So always practice tongue twisters as much as fast you can. Tongue twisters also help you to pronounce the right word in the right manner. And the next thing is that read newspapers alone according to your wish. I am very interested in reading newspaper. If you are interested in reading journals, magazines, weeklies, or your favorite book, according to wish, I am very interested in reading newspapers, and it helps us to improve our vocabulary. Sometimes if we read an article, sometimes we can't catch a word. At that time, we pick that word and wrote it in a notebook and try to frame sentence with that word. At that time, the word is stored in our memory. And the next thing is then watching movies, videos, series. If you watch movies, I suggest that don't watch movies with subtitles. If you watch movies with subtitles, at that time we are very eager to read that subtitles. At that time we are not listen. Okay, if you watch movies without subtitles, at that time you can improve two skills. If you watch movies without subtitles, at that time you can improve your listening skill and also speaking skills. At the same time you watch movie, you can also retell the dialogue with the actor. The next thing is the listening videos or audios. There are so many videos are available in our social media. I am very interested to listen TED Talks, Let's Talk, and Josh Talks. And also All India Radio is also very important. You can download the All India Radio app, or otherwise you can just hear through Google. It's also very helpful to improve our language and also help us to make fluent in English. If you are very interested in speaking like native speakers, you can also watch BBC. But I didn't watch BBC. I watched All India Radio and the remaining video shows. The next thing is that concentrate on fluency. Don't really concentrate on grammar. We know so many grammar rules. Am I right? While we speaking, we think on grammar rules. At that time, we begin to stammer. At that time, our mind is totally confused, stuck, full stop. So always concentrate on fluency. Grammar is important. I think grammar is important in writing. In speaking, fluency is more important. So please concentrate on fluency. The next thing is that Don't be afraid of mistakes. We all are humans. Mistakes are natural phenomena. Always think mistakes may come, mistakes may go. If only through mistake we can learn English. Mistake is a part of our life. Okay, we can learn from mistake. If a mistake is happen at that time, you can also rectify that mistake and don't repeat that mistake in our future. It's very, very important. Don't afraid of mistake. You can start speaking. Mistakes, you don't bother about mistake. Mistake is happen. Sometimes mistake may happen. You don't bother about mistake. Speaking is our important. Our ultimate aim or our ultimate goal is to speak it. So just speak. Next thing is then avoid chat languages. Today we all are using social media. So we all text messages to our dear ones in chat languages. Instead of that, you can use complete meaningful sentences. It's also very helpful you to improve your improve your language skills and also writing skills. Nowadays there are so many online platforms are available. Earlier sir says that Coursera, 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 Duolingo, 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 FutureLearn. I also doing a course in Coursera. It's very helpful to us. The benefit of this platform is called we can do any course according to our wish. Is sometimes I am a graduate student, but at the same time I am very interested in any other subjects. For example, I am very interested in environment. At that time, we can do a course in Coursera. And we can complete this course according to our wish. I think all the courses available in Coursera are less than 12 hours. If we complete 12 hours, if you pay a money, you get a certificate. Otherwise, if you don't want certificate, you just listen and watch the videos. The benefit of this course is all these courses are offered by foreign universities and the classes are also taken by foreign professors. While we listening these videos, we can also help to improve our communication skills, and we also get more knowledge. And the next thing is that don't miss opportunities to talk with native speakers. I am a gargler's girl, so I always utilize the opportunities to talk with native speakers fruitfully. I am a devotee of Shantikari Ashram. There are so many native speakers come during festive season. I just go and talk to them. Sometimes we are bothered about them. How can I talk to them? I don't know that person. From my point of view, I believe that they are very humble, simple personalities. They are very closer personalities. We don't bother about that. How can I talk to them? For our improvement, we just go and ask questions to them. They can reply to all our answers. I earlier said that they are very simple, polite personalities. So we don't bother about that. I think nowadays there are applications are also available in our Play Store. I don't know more about that. Yesterday I saw an advertisement in my mobile phone. The name of the application is I think Cambly, Cambly. Cambly gives you instant access to friendly native English speakers. So you can practice conversations with the native speakers. The benefit of this app is they provide 24/7 whenever you have time to practice. So if according to our wish, we can practice conversations with native speakers. Don't give up. Always stay positive. If sometimes some people can't learn or speak English at their beginning, at that time they become upset. Don't worry. Only after some time, so after a couple of months, I earlier say that practice is the only thing to become fluent in English. After a couple of months, you can also become fluent in English. So don't give up. stay positive. We all are human. Sometimes we may face so many limits and challenges. Don't limit your challenges. Always challenge your limits. I repeat, don't limit your challenges. Always challenge your limits. These are the strategies I followed to improve my communication skills and to be fluent in English. According to your wish, you can follow your way. Thank you for ELTAI for giving such a wonderful opportunity. Thank you all for your kind attention.
Okay, fine. So thank you, Gurunanma, for having explained that the various platforms that you come across using that for improving your own fluency in English. And definitely both the speakers might have really thrown some light on improving English fluency skills. Now I request Professor C.A. Lal to answer a few queries which are raised from the participants. Yes.
They will be happy to, yes.
Yes, yeah. Sir, you have mentioned that the use of dictionary minimally.
Yes.
It is not for feeding the vocabulary, but for knowing that the various forms of the vocabulary. So, yes. Could you throw some light on that, sir?
Well, about dictionaries.
Using the dictionary very well.
Yeah, I understand. Dictionaries are essential books. Don't think that I'm kind of saying that dictionaries are not useful. They are excellent books. But I was talking about the possibility of dictionary becoming a hindrance. Particularly, we learn English widely when we attain fluency in English while we read extensively. That is reading for fun at home, at leisurely. So when you do that, if you also run to the dictionary when you have a problem with any word, that will hamper your reading. So as Dr. Taru repeatedly say in his talks, we automatically pick up the meaning of words when you encounter them in real context. So the important thing is to read, and when you read and you come across words, very often you kind of find out the meaning from the context. And when there is a word that is persistently troubling you, certainly you need to use the dictionary. And you have to have the dictionary at your table, or maybe a digital dictionary constantly, because you are constantly learning. You might need to check. I mean, I use dictionary a lot. I was talking only about reading extensively. Don't run to the dictionary very often. And secondly, don't, the valuable time you have where you can read a book, don't waste time looking up in the dictionary and copying down words and trying to learn them by heart. Those words will not be useful to you. Only the words that you encounter in real life will be useful to you. That is the point I was trying to make about dictionaries. I hope I made myself clear.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. There is a question from a participant, Dr. Ashwini Rana,
yes,
that many students feel that learning tenses is the best way to learn English.
Learning?
How to make them understand that there is more than tenses to learn as well?
Can you please repeat?
Many students feel that learning tenses is the best way to learn English.
Okay.
How to make them understand that there is more than tenses to learn as well?
Well, that is probably because we also make a big deal about tenses. For example, I remember studying future perfect continuous tense. By the time next year we will have been doing. See, these kind of constructions we rarely use in life. Maybe many of the grammatical things we learn at school we would hardly ever use in our whole lifetime. So, but somehow, due to our examination system, due to the way of teaching, which I'm not saying it is totally flawed, because teaching a second language is a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody. So there is no single easy method also. But the danger that has happened is that students and even adult learners of English have a feeling that tenses is a big issue. Certainly, it's a big issue. But the thing is, you can learn it, to use the tenses correctly when you read. That's the only solution I have. To making the students understand is a hard thing, because they have picked it up from someone like us. We teachers have given them unnecessary focus on some part of language, or maybe given them a wrong practice of learning, and that is very hard to rectify. I would say the panacea would be to encourage students to read for fun. Don't insist on reading, because if we insist, they wouldn't read. That's one thing about young adults. Whatever you ask specifically, they won't do that. But generally share stuff with them, share your reading experience with them, and hope that they will start reading at some point. Reading and listening are the best ways to learn language in context. I don't think I gave a specific answer, but
yeah, thank you so much for giving a very fabulous explanation to this, sir. And there is another question that most of the times I get confused in putting correct preposition and deciding appropriate tenses related to. So how to correlate that?
Yeah, the
using appropriate.
Yes.
Putting appropriate preposition and deciding appropriate tense.
Yes, actually, I don't have an answer.
So many times the learners.
I understand. One big problem. The reason is primarily in our languages. Most of our Indian languages, we use a lot of tense ending to show the meaning. Malayalam, Hindi, these are all highly inflected languages. By changing the verb, we can change the verb in so many different ways to convey the meaning, and we are used to doing that. But in English, we convey meaning using so many other grammatical words like prepositions, auxiliary verbs, etc. That's a logic which is different. But there is no particular point in telling them all these things. Telling the students, giving them a list of prepositions, etc. generally will not help. That is what we have been doing them. So today we're going to learn prepositions and prepositional phrases. That I don't think that helps much. It's important to encourage learners to discover them in context, construct activities in the classroom which are closer to their life with models. You choose a specific number of prepositions and you give them it in a context, and then have exercise which will have the same context where they use it. And when they repeatedly do it and also supplement it reading outside, that is the only hope we have, because there are absolutely no shortcuts to teach English grammar like preposition or verbs, whatever, because the logic behind English is very different from the logic behind the grammar of Indian languages. But one big mistake we make is we explain that to the students very often. Tell them, see, this is how in English, this is like this. There's no point in doing that, because language has to be learned. Language has to be learned. It is not the structures that have to be learned consciously. And whatever classroom activity we can structure in which they are exposed to language items in their context, and then they are encouraged to repeat that again in context. Very important to have them in context. There is usually we give them disconnected sentences. For example, we give them 5 sentences which have no relation to each other, and we say that these are in the direct speech, and convert them into the indirect speech. They might do that very successfully and get good marks, but in real life that will not be of any help to them. This is because we are giving them disconnected sentences, which are two problems. One, they are disconnected. Second, they are not close to their context. So give them stuff which is close to their context and which are related. One idea following another, which is connected with the first idea. We need to consciously take effort to do that both in our textbooks and in our classroom activities. Perhaps that will make the task more real to them and help them understand these structures more.
Okay, thank you, sir. And there is a last question, if you don't mind. So what is the difference between expectation from student, a teacher, or a professor who is in speaking English context?
I haven't totally understood, but I think I can guess what Dr. Shivani is asking.
The difference between expectation from a student and a teacher or a professor while speaking in English. Yeah.
Well, in everyday transaction, I think it will be pretty much the same expectation. All of us will be using very similar kind of. We have to use it. We need to avoid jargon when we speak. When I was preparing the presentation, I had used this word pedantic, and then my daughter observed that is a jargon which you should not use. So teachers have the tendency to use jargon, which we need to avoid. So in everyday speech, all of us have the same kind of English. But when we write academic writing, when we teach as professors or whoever, when we do academic writing, we are expected to use specific jargon or a kind of register which is suitable to that task we are performing. So when we are writing about classroom experience and which is to be published, which is to be read and understood by experts in the field, we have to use a more academic sounding, more precise language, whereas we might even use specifically so-called difficult words we might use. But so the same person, when we are conversing with the learners, or when we use in a real life context, both the students and the teachers will be using pretty much the same kind of language. It's all a problem with the appropriate register that we use. I think that was the question. I'm not very sure.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your vast experiences in this context. Now I welcome Professor Ramani to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. I should thank the speakers. Dr. Lal is a good friend of mine, and he has given a very good account of what needs to be emphasized when one wants to acquire fluency in English. The main takeaways from his presentation are: number one, grammar and vocabulary have a limited role to play in respect of improving one's fluency. What is more important is the ability to use English for day-to-day communication without hesitation, with confidence. The second takeaway is the point that he ended the presentation with, namely, there are no shortcuts to becoming proficient users, fluent in English. You go on reading quite a lot, and wide reading, extensive reading of material that you enjoy reading will go a long way in improving your ability to be fluent in English. So practice. The more you use language, the more you acquire language, the more you master it. Thank you, Dr. Lal. You have always been of great support to ELTAI whenever we seek your
Thank you,
support
sir.
and encouragement. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I should also congratulate Guru Nanma on her excellent presentation. I mean, she was very forthcoming and outright, straightforward. She shared her experience of how she herself has been learning English, has been learning to become proficient in English. Several takeaways from her presentation. I would like to highlight just one or two. Number one, don't worry about making mistakes. Mistakes are a part of the learning curve. Number two, use whatever language you have. That's the only way to keep on improving your fluency in English. Don't feel shy of the deficiencies in your own language use. That will put you off for a longer time than necessary. So thank you very much. Best wishes to you, Guru Nanna. I hope from among the participants of today's session, many more students will come forward to share their experiences, to give ideas on the broad theme of life skills for students in the parallel session for the students themselves. Thank you. I would like to thank all the attendees of today's session. Please make sure that you fill in the feedback form, which will be sent to you by email. You must have seen the announcement, the pop-up announcements in the chat box. So feedback form will be sent to those who attend the full session. Please complete it. It's essential for getting the e-certificate. E-certificate will be sent to you through email within 2 or 3 days' time. You need to be patient. And then we have student membership for ELTAI. If you would like to register yourself as a member of ELTAI, please visit our website, eltai.in. eltai.in. You get all the details about the benefits you will get as a student, and the membership form, application form will always be there. I need to conclude my role by making a couple of announcements. The first major announcement is about the 3-day celebration of Teachers' Day on September 3rd, 4th, and 5th by ELTAI. We have planned a lot of activities and competitions. 10 competitions have been planned, and the deadline for submission of entries is midnight tonight. Okay. So some of you have seen the chat box asking how to join the contest, PPT, and so on. Please, as soon as the meeting is over, access the website of the Teachers' Day competition. You see it in the pop-up message in the chat box, ELTAI Teachers Day 2020.in. There are 3 competitions for school students, 4 for college students, and 3 for teachers, because we want to remember the teachers' contributions also. We have received quite a lot of entries. We would like more people to register before the deadline is over. I know some people work towards the deadline. So gear up, get ready, and submit at least one entry for one of these competitions. You can't submit more than one entry for any of the competitions. So the deadline has been extended due to demand. So today, midnight is the deadline. And the 3-day Teachers' Day celebration will have 5 sessions actually. The inaugural session will be on the 3rd of September, Thursday, 4:30 to 6 p.m. And then on 4th September, we have 2 sessions, one in the morning, 10 to 12:30, and one in the afternoon, 4:30 to 6:30. And the 3rd day, 5th September, we have 2 sessions. The first session is from 2:30 to 4:30, and the valedictory is from 6:30 to 7:30. Please visit the Teachers' Day website for more details. Each of these sessions will have a motivational speaker. So I encourage as many students as possible to attend these sessions. And as soon as the motivational speaker session is over, a few activities have been planned for each session. On the first day, 3 events, memes, literature, and blogging. On the second day, in the morning, doodles and mini sagas and quiz. In the afternoon session, reflections on a book, e-posters, and PowerPoint presentations. And the last day, the first session, we have poetry slam and podcast. So please submit your entries and participate in this 3-day event. The motivational speakers have been carefully selected, and you better listen to them and learn quite a lot. The final announcement is about the next webinar in the general webinar series 2020 of ELTAI. That is webinar number 19, which is scheduled to be held on the 13th of September. I'll only announce the theme of that: reflective teaching practices, self-reflection, and learning spaces. The details will be out very soon. The poster will be out. The timing will be 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. the same time on 13th September. We are planning to have monthly student webinars from now on. Please do attend in large numbers and benefit from them. Send your suggestions also to us. Thank you very much. I finally thank the Coimbatore chapter for organizing this, especially Dr. Shankar Kumar, who anchored this session, and his dedicated team of workers from the chapter. Thank everybody. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. There is an announcement for the participants. The next students life skills development webinar series number 2, which is planned on 20th September 2020 between 4:30 and 5:30 on writing skills. The poster will be released shortly. And I thank on behalf of ELTAI all the participants and the coordinating team for having given their time for attending this webinar. Thank you. once again. Bye.